Hey, Alex, so great to see you here.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
So I've been super impressed with how Semperis has done over the years. Now, 1,000 customers, more than 100 million ARR, and hundreds of customers recovered cleanly, lots of money saved for all of them. Yeah. How have you guys been doing?
Well, we're doing really great. It's a very exciting time. I think there's a lot more focus now as people see more and more attackers turning to attacking identity infrastructure on what we do and the way that we guarantee resilience, especially in those real world environments, which are always complex. The customers have Active Directory on premises. They've got some amount of federation servers. They've got synchronization servers and cloud identity, and all of that has to work together to guarantee the integrity of their businesses.
Yeah. And you're not new to Active Directory, are you?
No, not exactly. I started at Microsoft back in '95, and I actually did some work on some of the very early days of Active Directory, and then later established the identity security team for Microsoft and ran that until I left Microsoft in January to join Semperis.
Right. And this is a piece of infrastructure that really runs the world almost.
Yeah, Active Directory is everywhere, and it sort of sits at the very bottom. So if you think about the way that trust is established in these environments, you sign into your desktop, and then you get to start accessing applications. That single sign-on world is critical now to the way business is done. It's a big part of zero trust and the model of being able to actually verify what's going on and reduce privilege. And as it's grown, we've also seen, the evolution, obviously, of cloud IDPs and that sort of thing. Very often, like usually what's happening is Active Directory sits at the bottom of that, right?
Yeah.
And then you synchronize objects out from Active Directory into the cloud. And so the truth and the trust is all rooted down in Active Directory. And so attackers know that if they can get their hands into that, then they can actually get their hands into everything the organization has.
In fact, most of the attacks that we've been monitoring have all started with Active Directory.
It's very true that typically the on-premises infrastructure is attacked preferentially. And I think, depending on who your source is, north of 80% of attacks, modern day attacks, start with identity. And so it's a very key thing to get right.
So one thing we learned reading, or experiencing all of these is recovering from Active Directory is not like a regular backup and recovery. I could just take the backup from yesterday and start recovering, or the day before yesterday. Tell me more about why is it so different?
Well, I think there are two things that make it really different. One is that the technology can be complex. So, customers have lots of artifacts from policy objects to domains and forests, and lots of, sort of technological how Active Directory is deployed in a complex environment. And the components within that need to work together.
Yeah.
All right. So restoring it in a way that it's actually in a working state is fairly critical. So that's one thing that makes it very different, is just getting it right technologically. But the second thing that makes a difference is that Active Directory isn't data. I mean, there is directory data in it, but it is not data. It is control, right? And so when you, for example, restore a user into a group, right, that group then has permissions to access, a set of files, or has access to actually administer the directory environment itself. And so being aware of the state changes that are in the directory and understanding how the attackers use those state changes to make sure that they stay in control of the environment is really essential. If you backed up everything else perfectly, and then you backed up the directory with the attacker still in place in that directory, then at that point, you've just given away the whole environment again.
That's it. Yeah. So that's why you need experts to know, and that know Active Directory and recovering it. I think that's where Semperis kind of shines, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that is the thing it's what drew me to Semperis.
Yeah.
After a very long time spent in identity and helping work on that technology, to be in an organization that was really dedicated to identity and resilience and security of identity infrastructure was very appealing to me. And I was brought in by friends. I had friends that I have worked with for 20 plus years in the industry who were saying, hey, this is where you want to be. This is where the center of, the expertise is. So I became convinced of that. And one of the cool things is that there are experts in Semperis that actually are hands-on with customers. So when customers have these outages, they go in and they actually help them recover. And they have crazy stories that they've gathered.
Yeah, that is the key, because if you don't recover properly, you may just keep all your assets open for anybody to access, isn't it?
That's right. We've had cases where recovery plans were underway. There was a good recovery document. There was a step-by-step plan for what to do if the attacker were to get into the environment. Unfortunately, the recovery plans didn't consider where they were stored. And so the attacker was able to get into those plans and actually kind of follow along as the customer was trying to recover. That makes it pretty hard if the attacker knows your next step every step of the way.
Yeah.
To make it worse, they were able to join the conference calls through one of the accounts that they were in control of. So they're actually watching the team work and reading the same document the team is reading. And unsurprisingly, that company had to call us in to help them because they were not.
Yeah, think of attackers joining the Zoom calls and seeing you recover and figuring out holes in that and continuing to be in the network. I mean, this is the expertise that many of our larger customers love. And, several months ago, we decided to start working together. We launched Cohesity Identity Resilience with Semperis. And we've got huge amount of interest, and we already have customers deployed. Our pipeline is really, really strong for this. And so really thank you for the partnership.
Well, thank you for the partnership. I mean, Cohesity brings to the table the ability to store the backups in an immutable way that we can guarantee that our customers can get to them. There are some, unfortunately, cases we could point out where, backups were stored in general storage, and then the attacker, when they encrypted everything, they encrypted the backups as well. So preventing that is huge. And then the reality is that when you restore identity, you have to restore into a clean room environment so that you can do your forensics and your cleanup before you go live with it. And Cohesity also brings some incredible solutions there. So it's just a kind of a match made in heaven.
Yeah, in fact, today Cohesity secures Semperis with immutability. We are working on a pretty strong roadmap to work in restoring Active Directory infrastructure as a part of our orchestrated recovery with Recovery Agent. We have a long way to go, but also super thrilled to discuss DSP. So in fact, our partnership we're expanding that to include DSP. Tell me more about DSP.
Yeah, I think on the success of our partnership around Semperis' ADFR and Cohesity, we're expanding that to DSP. DSP allows you to essentially track the changes in the directory over time. And that's important for two reasons. One is that it gives you this ability to see how changes are propagating, which can give really strong signals as to what the attackers are doing. And so if you see a series of state changes of certain types, these are, attackers have their playbooks for how they want to get in on maybe just one little account and then make a few changes and then, gradually change the policy of this so they can be everywhere. And this is how persistence is done. This makes it so hard to evict. And so what DSP lets you do is track those changes over time, actually does threat detection and signaling over that so that you can get warned of an attack that's in progress. But the really cool part is because of the log of changes that are there, you can say, you know what? All of those changes that got made by that attacker, let's roll them back to a month ago. All right. So anything that attacker did, we can actually do quarantine, we can do containment, and rollback. And that's such an important thing to do as part of the overall story. So we have our clean room, we restore the environment into the clean room, we can now do our forensics inside that clean room and roll back any attacker progress in that environment before we go live with it.
Yeah, and to repeat, I mean, this is unique because only DSP can really detect and evict the attackers, probably even before the attack occurs, or maybe even after you identify that. Then what's the use of being able to recover ADFR if you can't detect and evict the attackers and they are actually part of your recovery scenario?
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to make for a long day if after you finish all your recovery, you turn things back on, the attacker is still there, and you just go right back to where you started.
Yeah, and this is the reason why Active Directory recovery just can be done by a backup and recovery vendor. You need specialists like you and your team. I mean, Semperis has a whole bunch of experts in Active Directory, I don't know, like hundreds of years of combined experience.
Something like that,
yeah. And that they're available to help our customers in need. Honestly, yeah. So that's what makes this really special. That's what really we're seeing so much traction with our customer base. As I said, we have long roadmap to work together. AI brings another twist. Tell me more, like what are you seeing in terms of AI, complicating the situation?
Yeah, I think AI does a lot of, there's plenty to talk about with agentic AI and the ways it can complicate things. In the simplest cases, it's just that discovery, even for a good user, discovery becomes much, much easier. So you may not know you had access to the super secret financial documents, but you asked the wrong question through an agentic search agent, and suddenly you have a summary of those that you accidentally included in an email, right? So that's the sort of the most benign scenario. Of course, the platforms are all relatively new, and there are some opportunities for leakage in that way. But as you get into the more kind of malicious cases, you look at like an attacker using the technology, they're able to do reconnaissance across an environment incredibly quickly. And so if I take over somebody's account, in the old days, I had to, spend probably months doing recon through the environment, trying to find secrets, finding out what the state of the vulnerabilities was. After search indexing, I might be able to get a little bit faster. I find old documents and some, I have to sift through the documents. Today, with an agentic search agent, as an attacker, I can come into an environment and say, summarize for me all known vulnerabilities in this environment and include a table of leaked credentials in that, right? And now anything that account has access to, it's instantly available to the attacker. So that kind of speedy recon is a really important thing. Of course, we know about the risks around socialing as well. So attackers can use generative to do very high-scale spear phishing campaigns, to synthesize voices, to pretend to be your boss, all that kind of sort of
identity compromise, yeah.
Right. So the risks are higher, and the importance of really having great posture in your environment and a really tremendous resilience plan go up, because the likelihood of attacks is more prevalent. And and then I would just say, also thinking very hard about getting a handle on who has permissions to what, because those permissions will be exploited more readily, will be also really key.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Cohesity, we like to talk about 5 steps of cyber resilience, and our partnership checks all the boxes for Active Directory. When first we protect Active Directory data, and we can make sure it's always available for recovery with our immutable storage and be able to vault it. And with DSP, we can continuously detect threats, investigate it, and evict attackers even before the attack happens, or after the attack, we can investigate it. Prepare and practice. That's where our whole recovery orchestration comes in, as they're working together to make sure we can practice recovering the entire AD infrastructure, recovering AD on top of it, and then optimize data risks. I mean, with your Purple Knight and Forest Druid, it's very easy to find the posture, right? And I heard about 180 threat indications of exposure that you can detect.
Right.
That's a huge library of risks to be constantly monitoring for.
Right, and help you prioritize and start to burn down those risks. Yeah.
So with that, we just complete all the 5 steps, and I think this is the best Active Directory protection, combination in this planet. And really looking forward to helping all of our customers improve their AD posture, helping them recover in case there's an incident. It's a great partnership. It's love working with you.
It really has been a great partnership, and I think we know, from brainstorming, that we have a lot of things we're going to do together. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that partnership grow.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.